Hey, welcome to the Patrice Brantley Show, where helping others is the name of the game. And on this show, we push purpose, positivity, and personal growth. Hey, if you're new to this podcast channel, I want to talk to you about what this podcast is about. Listen, on this channel, we talk about purpose, positivity, and personal growth. We also discuss mental wellness in education, in small businesses, and truly everywhere in between. I need you to make sure that you follow me on all social media platforms. On Facebook, it is Patrice Brantley, Voice of Purpose Now. On IG, it is Patrice Brantley Now. On Facebook, again, make sure you follow the business page. That's right, 3S Movement. And on YouTube, make sure you follow us at 3S Movement. If you happen to be over on LinkedIn and you're looking for a morning word of encouragement, come on over and follow me at Patrice-B-3 Move. Let's talk about some announcements. Hey, I need y'all to come and join me at the 2024 Transitional Expo on Saturday, April 27th from 9 to 12. This is going to be in the Independence Civic Center in Independence, Ohio. And now listen, don't just leave it there. Come and connect with me. Let's connect and let's do this virtual workshop entitled Life Been Lifin'. Y'all know that's the truth, okay? Life Been Lifin'. We're going to do a workshop together on May 4th at 10 a.m. So make sure you grab your tickets at the 3smovement.com. Y'all, I got to tell y'all, I'm super duper excited to talk about our guest today, to connect with Miss. Oh my gosh, when I tell you how amazing this woman is, when you hear her story from the classroom to moving it on up like George and Wheezy to the principalship, but then moving from that point to becoming a true advocate for all children, not just those at her school. It will amaze you. It will take you to places that will just blow your absolute mind. I need y'all to come on in, put your hands together, clap it on up, clap it on up, clap it on up. And I need y'all to welcome Miss Petrina to the stage. Welcome. Welcome.
I'm so excited to be here. Hello. Thank you for inviting me.
You are more than welcome. I know that everybody is dying to know all about you, because when I heard your story, I was like, oh yeah, we got to have her on. She got some good stuff to share. So y'all know how I love to ask, what's your story?
My story is that it's a story of resilience. It's a story of grit. It's a story of faith. It's a story of actually seeing the work that God can do in and through us when we allow Him to.
Very cool. I want you to take me back, because I love how you incorporated your faith in the midst of the story. But take me back to when you first decided that education was for you. Take me back to that first.
It was a long time ago, but I decided at 5 years old that I was going to be a teacher. How it happened was I was in kindergarten and I was sitting outside the principal's office where my mother was inside having an intense discussion with the principal. What had happened was my teacher was teaching phonics and sounds, and I was not, according to her, going along with the class. So she asked me, oh, so you think you can read? And I said, as a matter of fact, I can read. I wasn't saying much to her. What she didn't know that I learned to read at 2.5. That our mother
Oh,
made sure that we learned how to read before we went to kindergarten. But I was very quiet and very shy. And so an hour later, I was sitting outside the principal's office because the teacher took me around. Oh, you think you can read? Read this, read that, read that. And I read signs around the entire school, which seemed to infuriate her even more.
oh
And
wow.
at the end of this whole story, when my mother emerged from the principal's office, I was going to kindergarten half day and first grade for a part of the day because indeed I could read. But I decided that I would become a teacher because I didn't want any child to feel like I felt. I remember exactly what I had on, where I was sitting. I was swinging my legs in my favorite earth shoes, and my little um, ankle socks, and I was fired up. I never changed my mind about a career path after that. I went right on to become a teacher. I didn't want any child to feel what I felt. A child in an urban setting who was poor, in a single parent family, who was all the stereotypes, and just thinking that she thought I couldn't succeed was exactly the path that my life took. I even invited that teacher actually to my college graduation when I graduated with a double major and a double minor in special education, general education, Spanish, and English. She didn't come. But that just goes to show like how much of an impact one adult can have on a child's life, even though it turned into something good for me, thanks to the grace of God and the support of my family.
So what I love about that, you hit exactly where I wanted to go. The level of impact that this had. And even though the situation didn't start off as wonderful, because, let's be honest, she tried to kill your dream and crush your spirit before you got started. But as you had this opportunity to be in a home where your mom was still putting in that time with you and really sharing with you, which shows even more the more power and purpose of a parent, of having a parent say, okay, this is what someone else said, but I'm going to put in and seed into my own child to get them to where I see them going. So I love that if you get to see how with the parent part, how important that is, but you also see how important it is for what we say to our children, not just because she was an educator, but period. We have to be so careful what we say to our children. We're supposed to be the first ones to build those kids up before they even hit the door to meet the world. So walk me through this. You have now gotten to the place, you have now graduated school. How does this look when you step into your first classroom that you are the boss? How does that look?
Oh my gosh, I was ecstatic. I never thought about it like being the boss, but I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to teach these children how to read. It's going to be wonderful. I actually, during your student teaching, you go through different assignments. And I had actually picked up a class right after graduation the next week. I took over a third grade class until the end of the year. So from May till June, the end of June. And then I got hired by that same school. But I was teaching a special education, what they call self-contained class. And
Oh,
I
wow.
was just excited. I mean, I could hardly sleep. I was getting everything ready. And when I got my class, there were 12 boys in my class, my fine young men.
Wow.
And they were ages 8 through 11 at that time. And they were in something called Option 2, which at that time was students who were 2 or more grade levels behind the academics, had speech difficulties, difficulties with maybe 1 or 2 health issues. And they also could have had like behavior issues and things like that. And you say could have, but if you got to that kind of class, you did have some issues.
So
And
you're walking in the door, literally coming in saying, I'm going to make a difference. And these are the babies that you get. And don't get me wrong, I know your experience, I know it well. You had it in third grade, I had it in fifth grade. They used to call it alternative ed. What I had, it was alternative ed with
yeah,
a comment lab. So I definitely I can definitely relate as you talk about this. Out of that group of kids, what was that aha moment for you? I feel like every educator, whether you're still in the classroom or you're out, in that first classroom, there's that aha that, you know what, I could do this and I'm gonna rock it. What was that aha moment for you?
one of the first moments, I'm gonna say the biggest moment was when my students who could not read anything read this very simple book called The Funny Fox. It was a little story called The Funny Fox. And they came to me without even knowing, some of them, a letter from a number. what the
Oh,
alphabet
wow.
was, how to teach them. And to this day, I always say, if you give me 6 weeks, I could teach 12 rocks how to read. I always say that because I can teach anybody to read. But one of the first moments was a child who was selectively mute. He also was
Oh, wow.
bilingual, and selectively mute is when, for some emotional reason or anxiety, they are not speaking, but they can. And he didn't speak for at least 3 weeks. So every day we would just say, here's your desk, we didn't even know what his name was because he wasn't telling us. We had to wait until everyone sat down to see which desk he was going to go to. And he just stood there. So I said, here's the empty desk. This must be him. So this little guy, he didn't say anything. But after about 3 weeks in the classroom, he said, well, Pittsburgh Sharpie. And we didn't recognize that voice. So I'm looking around like, who said that? And what he had said was, my pencil is broken. I want to sharpen it. But he said, Pittsburgh Sharpie. And he went over to the pencil sharpener and he had the biggest smile on his face. And we were like, yay, saying his name. Even the class, the other teacher, we were like, he's talking. Like, this
Oh,
kid
my
was 8 years
gosh.
old and he had not spoken a word outside of home since he was 5 years old. So that was
So,
a real big
um,
win for me.
I love it because it's not just a win for you, but it really shows for those who have not stepped into the classroom how you as the teacher that you set that environment and you decide whether it's going to be a place of comfort for those kids. And for a kid who comes in selectively mute, you either make a break. That's the best way I can put it. And I love it because after a while, even though there were some things that he may have been a challenge for him, that was his moment to shine and say, you know what? I see you. I'm getting this. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
an amazing moment.
He felt safe. And I
That's it.
always wanted to have a classroom where my own children I would want my own children to be in that classroom. And I wanted to run a school where I wanted my own children to go to that school. It was that quality. And so that's like one of the first steps that you have to take is building relationships. Children know how you feel. They may not be able to articulate in
Mm,
words how you have made them feel, but they actually do. Just like the quote, people won't remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel,
yes.
Dr. Maya Angelou. It is so true. It is so true.
Yes. The beauty in that is once you got into that space, you stayed into the classroom. How long did you stay?
I was a classroom teacher for 13 years, and I thought I would
So,
teach until I was 92, but that's not how it happened.
so after these 13 years, you go to move. What's the next move from this? Because these babies have captured your heart. I see it, and they're there. 13 years in special ed is not an easy journey. Let me say that. And you go from here. You've made these connections with these babies, and most likely you've made connections to their families as well. What's the next frontier?
Well, one thing that I have learned in my life is that I don't tend to want to move to the next thing, but
Mm,
sometimes adversity moves you.
that's a
So
good one. I like that.
once you get to a place where everything becomes uncomfortable, it's just like you're getting pushed out of the nest. Every next move in my life is precipitated by an uncomfortable moment where you have to make a choice to
Mm.
move. So I have learned to recognize the signs of that movement and move rather than be moved. So
Oh, that's a good one.
adversity was there.
I like that.
And I was recruited to start a new position called an inclusion specialist, where I would work in general education and help a school that never had special education students incorporate them into the classroom. So I was like a coach for teachers and for the school of how do you include students with special needs in regular classes. So I did that for 3 years. Then I moved on to become what you call a special education coordinator, where going from teaching in the classroom to helping teachers and school personnel develop plans to make sure that students were making the growth that they needed to make. Looking at their growth, writing individual education plans, holding the actual meetings as required by law to make sure that things were in compliance with what students need.
So the beauty in this is, and I think a lot of people kind of overlook this, is that it's not just the teacher planning this. This is a whole system. So when they come into you, you're getting stuff that people from the top down have put together to make it be a better space and place for your child to have that growth experience, to grow and learn more. And after you left this coordinator position, what was the next exciting part?
Well, I finally answered the call. I have been being recruited for like 5 years at this point to go into a program, another leadership program, master's leadership program, to become like either a district level administrator or a principal. So I then finished my next degree and went to work as an assistant principal and then became a principal of a school. And all the things I never thought I would do.
So what I love about it is when you talk about answering this call, because a lot of people feel like if I just get into administration, it's going to be better. If I just get out of the classroom, right? And don't get me wrong, that's how a lot of people think, right? If I just get out of the classroom, it's going to be better. But I want you to give us a true picture of the admin life. What does that really look like?
Well, one thing, if you don't love it, don't do it. If you're not doing it for children, because people think you have a greater level of power, is untrue. The higher up you move, the less power you actually have to make
Oh,
the
wow.
change. You have to move through so many different hoops to do it. So when you move up the ladder to another rung, when they say A is lonely at the top, is truth, because the buck stops with you. When you're the leader of a school, there's a lot of hours to be put in. There's a lot of sacrifice that needs to happen. You sacrifice a lot of your personal time. You go from working, as teachers, they said we work so many hours. It's true. I went to, at some points, working 20-hour days, 6 and 7 days
Wow.
a week. Because if something happens, like, for example, we had a lot of situations where the school that I was in, which I loved, was in one of the worst parts of the city, quote unquote. We had a 99.6% poverty rate in our school, which was one of the highest. It was in an area called the Fatal Crescent, literally in that city. So we had lots of tragedies that would happen to our families. And so in the middle of the night, once when I was on vacation, things happened. We rushed back, came back, and tried to help take care of that, whether it be meals or helping parents plan, unfortunately, funeral arrangements, or supporting them in the wake of a tragedy, going to the hospital. Those are things, because when you truly care about children, you go from having 12 children in your class or 25. Now I have 565 children. And every day I was the person who had to maintain safety, an area of trust, making sure that happened. And you don't do that by yourself. You do that with teachers and you do that with support staff. And mind you, in the education system, people are not always into it for the right reasons as you think you're into it. I'm sure they may have started off that way, but some people do see it as a job that you can get where summers off, or a job that you can get that pays a lot of money or prestige. But as one of our safety officers pointed out, I'm making less money per hour. If you work 20 hours a day and you divide your salary, you're making less money per hour than the person
Wow.
who makes minimum wage. And it was interesting because you don't even think about the money. Once you get into it and this is your life, it becomes, it's not just a serious charge. If we're not careful, it becomes our identity. And that's
That's
where we
good.
always have to caution ourselves, because what happens if you're not that? We're a lot of identities. There's many facets to our lives, especially as women and Black women. We're, some of us are mothers, some of us are aunts, some of us are sisters. You're maybe participating in your church, maybe doing a role for your organization or your business. There's lots of different roles that we fill, but when you have a job in administration that's so time consuming, it's very easy to fall into that trap. And everyone's not happy. They're not like, oh, yay, let's do this. There's a book that someone from my hometown wrote, and she said, only wet babies like change. People don't
Wow.
want to change. People don't want to say,
That's
yay, let's come in here and do this. Let's all work hard. That's not the reality. And you have a choice to make. You can be a boss or you can be a leader. The difference is a boss
that's good.
manages, and a leader, someone's following you. A boss has people under them. And when you're leading a school, you have to be a leader, whether everyone is in step or not. You can never get 100 adults to all be on the same page at one time. But you still have to lead the charge, and you have to remember what you're doing it for. You're there for children.
I love what you just said, and I'm gonna put that up because I think that's an amazing piece to talk about. Are you a boss or are you a leader? I think, like you spoke about, a boss is someone feels that people are below them. A leader is a person who empowers those who are working with them and says, I'm in the trenches with you. And just to hear this again from somebody else saying, yes, this is what it looks like to really be a leader in front for education. And I love that piece. I had to highlight that because it hit me when you said, are you a boss or leader? I was like, okay. So in the midst of this, like you said, everybody is not supportive in these moments. How did you deal with the difficult people in your past? Because I think so many times, and I'm going to be first. I'm going to throw myself out here. When I was in the classroom, I was kind of like, you know what, this admin ain't always seeing my view, right? And then I would be like, oh, but these parents didn't see this. So how do you deal with that? Because you kind of have to know how to walk a tightrope and try to please people. So how did you handle it?
The one thing is, I put the children in the center. Is this good for kids? Is this going to better their life? Is this going to expand their choices and their chances? If it is not, then we have to think of another way. I used to wear, and I still wear, a pin. There's a circle of children on this pin that reminds us, whether I'm wearing a suit, a jogging suit, or whatever, I wear this pin to remind me that children are at the center. And working with difficult adults is much harder than working with difficult children. When I first became a principal, I took my staff that I had never met canoeing. I had never gone canoeing. I didn't know how to swim at that time. And I said, this is going to be a metaphor for how we work together. So we showed up at a park with, I had instructors, of course. I wasn't going to let us all drown out there. So we got in the canoe and we learned so many lessons that would inform our journey together. That we learned, one of the boats capsized. that if you
Wow.
all row in different directions, the boat is going to go in a circle.
Ooh,
The
that's a
leader
good
in
one.
a canoe is at the back, not always at the front. The leader doesn't
Ooh, that's
stand up
good.
in the boat and say, "Hey, I'm the leader." My mother told me something years ago. She used to say this, and it sticks with me. She said, "If you have to tell people you the boss, you ain't the boss. Be the
Ooh,
boss. You
okay, I
be
like
it.
that one now.
You embody it." She said, "You got to tell people you ain't the boss. You have to be a leader." And leaders in a canoe are at the back, and they steer. They have a special oar that steers the course of the boat. So you may
Mm.
be a leader, but you're not always in the front. But you steer and you set the course of where you're going to go. If everybody doesn't row, then the boat, someone's going to have to work harder. And sometimes people take the lead and other people take a rest. But then you get back in, and that's how you row. And that metaphor took me through my first principalship. We became crew members who were rowing. I said our team rows together. We had all kinds of things. So a metaphor for how to work together. So when somebody tried to row in a different direction, I reminded them of when the boat capsized. When somebody didn't row and they didn't do their part, I would say, everybody at our staff meeting, some people oars aren't in the water. And I would go on to detail what are the things that we needed to do. So, and if somebody stood up on the boat, over the boat goes. So
Wow.
I use a lot of metaphors, in my leadership to make sure that people can conceptualize things, like, because you can
Yes.
break it down into a piece. Always a teacher. When once a teacher, always a teacher. I think that's the way this goes.
I really, really love the visual of the boat because so many people don't realize. And again, I've never been canoeing. I think I probably would have been that one teacher that's like, wait, let me go wrap my hair. We're not going out here like this. No, you're not going to take me in that space, right?
I
So
had
for
neither. I
me,
had neither.
I love it because it was literally you showing your staff, I'm new to this, just like you're new to this in this particular space. And if we work together, many great things can happen. And I love that piece because it says a lot. I love that part about leaders are in the back. That right there, that's a whole word. That preach all by itself. Leaders are in the back, but the other part, as your mother said, and I have to share this jewel of wisdom because I think about my path and the different things I've done in different careers I've been in. And, I used to always hear people who would march up and down, especially when they got their first little promotion. I am this, and I'm that. And when I heard you say that, the first thing came to my mind was a real leader does not have to stomp up and down and tell you they're in control. How was the statement made? They walk silent and carry a big stick.
Carry
And
a
that
big
means
stick.
they know who they are and they don't have to put on this show for other people to say, oh, I know they're in charge. I just, that
You
part just
be
blew me
it. She
right. I
said,
love
be
that.
it. It comes from the inside. And you don't always have to feel confident and bold, but it comes from the inside, your integrity of doing what's right. And that emanates out. It doesn't go in.
I love
People
that.
say leaders are born or made. I think it's a combination. You could be born into it, but by nature, I'm a pretty quiet person by nature, and I used to be. Now I'm never quiet. But I'm also not a person who wants to ever jump in the front or be in a limelight. So the
Mm.
leadership journey that I've been on has been to try to empower other people to take the power they have. You're a good leader if you make other leaders, not if you
Oh, that's
just
good.
keep it to yourself. You can know your impact by making other people leaders, by empowering them to like lean into your inner leader, because everyone's a leader in their life or in their personal life, in their church or organization. But if I am truly a good leader, I'll make good leaders. There should be a trail of people saying, Petrina influenced my life this way, and now I'm doing X. Because
I
that's your
love that.
goal. Just like when you teach,
Wow. I love
you
that.
have children who have learned and attained success in some way. When you lead, you make leaders.
That's it. That right
And
there
my mother
says a
just used to
lot.
say, "Be it." You be it. That
Wow.
those two were be it.
I love
Don't
that.
say it, be it.
I love that because I'm going to segue a little bit because I love how your mom talked about being it. And, you know, in this day and age, everybody talks about imposter syndrome and, oh, I'm faking it till I'm making it. And this day and time, you know, because I know when you talk about leadership, that's a part of management. How do you deal with the management piece of being it? Like, you know, you are that leader and making sure that as the leader, you're taking care of your mental wellness, your mental health, so that you can continue to be that amazing leader. Was that always something that was easy for you, or was it kind of those things that you had to kind of grow into?
Absolutely, it was not easy. I would love to tell you, oh, yes, I always took care of myself and prioritized myself. I would love to say that, but it would be a lie because I did not do that. I did not. When they say the term servant leader, people say it like a catchphrase, but it is a
Mhm.
truth. And when you're used to serving others, because you really are serving others by leading, sometimes
Mhm.
it's easy to lose sight of yourself and you give out so much that you never take anything back.
Mhm.
And I learned the hard way. Remember, I talked about identity.
Yes.
When you're a leader who stands for what's right and you have integrity,
Mhm.
there will be roadblocks. As a matter of fact, there will be like a caravan of roadblocks. And
Wow.
what happened to me, which made me really I had to rethink. I'm right now even still in the process of redoing, like reshaping and reinventing my life. I was a principal. I was successful. I loved it. My children, my community, they recognized that the school that we were at was a beacon of hope and light. And then guess what? They closed the school.
Oh,
They not
wow.
only closed the school, they fired me. I say that the district fired me, all for doing the right
Come on.
thing for children. I can say this publicly because I did end up being successful in the lawsuit. But what happened was when we got to depositions and the judge said, hey, you're saying this principal was phenomenal. She only caused growth and she really led that school. What are we doing here? Settle. And it was 5 years of me finding myself, my courage, my confidence. It was devastating. I didn't know who I was anymore. I wasn't a principal, I wasn't a teacher, I wasn't a leader, I wasn't an anything. I was a person trying to make sense of an injustice that was done and really trying to reshape my life. And I really had to lean into my faith, my support group. People who you think will be your support group will not be your support group. The
Wow.
people you're looking for cannot be found when you go through a blow like that. But God is gracious and He
Mm.
elevated other people in my life and my path to help me rediscover what it was. My purpose doesn't lie in a title that I hold. My
Very
purpose
good.
is what he shapes me to be. And I could be a principal. I like in the word, it says, I know how to be a base and I know how to be elevated. I know how to have and I know what not to have. I know what it's like to go from making 6 figures to making 0 and trying to figure out what you're going to do next. So from being a principal, I couldn't even get a teacher job. I couldn't get any job because of all the politics that surround and all that. I ended up moving to another state and starting from scratch. And I thought I was going to be starting from scratch, but lo and behold, God had better plans. So I went from that to being
Mm.
a state level director for a team. But it was 4 hard years. I always say, like, an airplane crashed into my life. And once the airplane crashed in my life, I'm still finding pieces of it and trying to put it together because it doesn't just happen once. So I lost my job. Just to be, totally transparent, my brother got killed. My father got sick, had a stroke and several strokes, and I had to take care of him. I lost my job. I lost my health. Everything that you could think on every front, personal life, professional life, all those things happened. And I was left with 0. I moved to another state at negative 100. And I became a state director for special education for a charter school company. And then from there, I went to open a school, a dream I've always had to open a school. And then, like I said, I learn from my mistakes. When it's time to go, go. Don't get moved, move. So I learned, and it was one of the hardest things I've done. I walked away from something that I built that I loved because the integrity wasn't there. And the trajectory it was going in was going to make me have to compromise who I was in terms of what I was going to do for children. And I had to move. And that left me in another period of uncertainty. So a leadership journey is never linear, and it's not a trajectory that goes up. It's up and it's down and it's up and it's further down and it's up again and it's here and it plateaus and then it's down. There's no such thing as a straight trajectory to leadership. What we find in examples that you can find all over the world, anyone who has a quick straight shot up sometimes has a very quick downfall. Because don't get to a place, and I heard a very famous minister say this. He said, don't get to a place where your talent puts you, but your character can't keep you.
Oh, that's good. Say that again.
Your gift can take you to a place where your gift can get you there, but your character can't keep you there.
Oh my goodness.
So if you don't have what it takes as integrity, as a confidence in God and yourself and your whole support system, you will not stay there because the work is hard. You will have to come against lots of battles that will challenge your integrity and how well you really believe what you say you believe. And when an environment and a workplace does not support that, it's time to move. You're going to do one or two things. You're going to give in and compromise, or you're going to move. And people think education, kids, cute, treacherous. The higher up you
Wow.
move, the more treacherous it can become. And being a Black woman in that space, the intersection of being
Mm.
Black and being a woman is even more treacherous. We're not all sisterhood singing kumbaya. Sometimes the face that delivers the fatal blow to you in your career looks just like yours. So you
Mm.
have to have faith in God and not people, and faith in what God
Mm.
put in you. That's how you deal with difficult people. These are lessons learned through experience. I could read that in the book and say, "Oh, that's good." But when you're
Mhm.
in that spot, you start questioning your life choices like,
Yes, goodness. Hello, come on.
was I supposed to be here? And you know you were supposed to
Hello.
be here because the doors open
My
like this.
goodness.
There you go.
Uh-huh. And those
And then
life
when it
lessons are
gets
something.
hard, this is when that character has to keep you. It's the grace of God. I'm in my right mind after so many highs and lows. I'm not talking about just, it's like roller coaster highs and lows. It's like the Grand Canyon lows and Mount Everest highs. And yet I'm still here, but the grace of God. And if I didn't have the character, the integrity that was instilled in me by these hard life lessons, I wouldn't be here today talking about it as if it was a movie.
What
You
I love
have
about
to
it is
deal
that
with.
what I love about it is that you are able here to sit here and really have the conversation and let's talk about it. And it doesn't feel like, how do I want to put it? You're not so detached, but you're able to say, this is where I was and this is who I am now. And I heard about this chapter as you talked about it, but I want to talk about what you're doing now. Like I've heard the roller coaster, and I'm like, you know what? I want to see the sunshine because I know that roller coaster ride was deep. But now, what does it look like now? What is the sunshine moment for you?
That last low, the last dip in the roller coaster, led me to pursue one of the things that I've always wanted to do. And I kind of course, happened upon it accidentally. I was speaking with someone at my church, and after church, and she was just distraught about a situation her son was in. Her child has autism, and she was just distraught, saying, like, I know my kid can do this. I'm just concerned about what's happening with him. So I took a little deeper dive, just said, oh, bring me his IEP. Let's meet. Let's talk about his individual education plan. And what I found by looking at it, it led me to a different direction. So I have a business. It's called P Infinity Education Solutions, which I had never really leaned into doing it. But at that time, especially when you don't have a job, you walked away from what you thought you were going to be in. I started working with her. Um, my family likes to say I love pro bono work, but it really helps me to help somebody else. So we discovered, like in one of the largest school systems in the nation, these atrocities were happening to children with special needs. Like the teacher basically said, no, she didn't basically, she said verbatim, I can't teach this kid. I don't even bother making work for him to do. I just let him walk around the classroom with his, shoes on or off and bothering other kids. I don't even bother. The only thing you can do for me as far as support is give me a Tylenol. And she got up and walked out of the meeting that I had spent 3 entire months trying to schedule for this mom. And I've never in my entire career seen anything like this. That why would you allow children to be treated like this. No, I mean, and if that was one kid, how many more kids? So the light at the end of that tunnel was not only, I mean, I had to call up to the top to make a complaint at the state level for them to even grant us a meeting and right these wrongs. We got her children moved from one of the worst schools in that county to the best school in that county. That child, who was at the time 9 years old, they said he was at a kindergarten level. Recent testing, that child, and this was only less than a year, that child is working on grade level at the fourth grade level in reading
Oh,
and
wow.
math. That says what? He always had the ability to do that. No one cared. No, and my heart is for special education students, students with special needs. So a change of environment and teachers that care. Also, it doesn't hurt that they know that I'm on that phone, on that Zoom, in that office every week saying, so what's going on? I know the law. I know the special education law. So I moved into an advocate role when that wasn't really my intention, but it changed not only that student, his sibling, his cousin, his family members. We were able to make a ripple effect, with that. Literally, I moved to a whole other state and I'm still in contact with them, making sure that things are on the right track, attending the meetings. So I had a few students and I became like a coach for like younger kids, like helping them, students with executive functioning issues, because I know how to get them to work, helping them to organize, helping them to get things together, tutoring, working with some adults, teaching them how to read. There's like a whole, the reason it's called P Infinity is because it's supposed to be promise, purpose, perseverance. And the reach of what we do when we're helping others is infinite. So
That's
that's where the
awesome.
P Infinity came from. And so I did that. Even in the hard times, it brings you joy. When I have
Yes.
nothing, when I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to pay the light bill, or if I'm going to put that in the church offering, or if I'm going to get gas, when I'm making those choices, it brought me joy, great joy. And that then led to my newest opportunity around working in a large urban school district as a regional assistant director of special education at this point. But
Wow.
it ain't over. And I still maintain, I get my greatest joy from the hard knocks that I had were to benefit these families that I still work with, if that makes any sense.
It makes a
Which
lot of sense. What I find interesting about it is, and this is going to be our final word. I love this because for you, where there was people who were not exactly cheering your dream, you now have become the cheerleader for other people and their children and literally their family, their communities, to make sure that they won't have that experience anymore. You make sure that what they need is taken care of, and I salute you for it. I think it's amazing. um I just want to shout out those who, I mean, truly, you are a true element of change, a change agent who is coming and making a difference through not just your business but your life and what you present to others. I love it. If
I
you had a
never
final word to give us, go ahead.
I never connected that until right now. The advocacy and working with families, so that I never made that connection to why I became a teacher until this very moment.
Wow.
I never thought about it that way. But thank you for that. Like, now I've got some work to do on that. I never connected that. I just thought it was like, it's what you do, is what you've been doing. You do that, and you never know where it's going to lead. And I think my final word would be what another saying my mother and the old folks would say. They would say, run on and see what the end gonna be.
All right.
Don't get stuck in the right now when things are hard. Don't get
All right.
stuck in what you used to have that you now don't have. Run
Mm.
on and see what the end gonna be. Because you need to keep moving in order to see what that next blessing is going to be, what that next chapter in your purpose is going to be, what the next people you're going to meet is going to be. Just run on, don't quit, run on and see what the end going to be, because it's definitely going to be better than the past, than the now, than the what you think is imminent tomorrow. You got to have the long view. So just run on, see what the end gonna be. Don't quit. Don't quit on yourself. Don't quit on your dreams. Don't let any, if somebody steps on your dreams, you pick your dream up, you dust it off, you blow the dirt off it, and you put your dream right back up on the wall. You just keep going. Run on, see what the end gonna be.
On that note, I have to be honest with you. I have nothing else I can say but run on and see what the end will be. With that, I want to thank our guest, Mr. Trill, for coming in. Oh my gosh, y'all hype her up. I need y'all to find her online. She is on LinkedIn. I need y'all to go and connect with her. I need y'all to make sure that you know what, y'all connect and ask your questions. Connect with her. Let her talk with you. You have those conversations that you need to have so that you all can really take your child and your community to a higher level. And on that note, right before we get into the next part, I want to take this moment to thank once again Ms. Petrina for coming in. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Patrice Brantley Show, where helping others is the name of the game and where we push purpose, positivity, and personal growth. I thank y'all so much for joining me. This has been an absolute blast. Make sure you catch us when we get into the behind the scenes. Have an amazing